Good evening, everybody. It's really good to have you here. Thanks for being here with us tonight. There's still some folks who are joining in these last minutes. We would like to ask if everyone could put into the chat the town that you're from. We wanted to get a sense of what communities are being represented here at our training tonight. So please add that to the chat. And I don't like to ask information of people without telling them information about myself. So my name's Ann Quackenbush. I'm a member of the Executive Committee of Champaign County Democrats. And I attended a session very similar to this. I have my notes here. I went back to my notebook that I started when Trump was elected. It was November 29th, 2016. The illustrious Michelle Jett, who we'll hear from later tonight, was one of the main presenters. And it was honestly the first political action I had taken other than voting in mostly just general elections. So I may be somewhat like some of you venturing out. Likely a lot of you are have been and have become more active in all things politics in the past 4 years. And I love that. I feel like the next natural step, now that we have had some great success at the presidential level, and we've got the House, we've got the Senate, let's turn our eyes to our local elections. We've had a lot of success here countywide in Champaign County, but there's always more to do. There's always progress to be made. And we highly believe that local elections, yeah, they are important. So once again, thanks for joining us here for Government 101. We want to honor the time that you're sharing with us tonight. We want to make sure that we're using it well. So we're going to be leaving folks muted for the most part, just so we can share lots of information, but the chat is open. We're asking first for friends. I'm gonna probably call you friends because I teach 5th grade and I call my students friends. We'd like you to let us know what community you're from. And it looks like mostly Champaign and Urbana. We don't have any. Oh, we've got Muhammad. That's great. Wonderful. Okay, well, it's really great to have you here. I'll be starting us off with some general information, and then we're also going to be hearing from the great Michelle Jett. So let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, what we have coming up are consolidated elections. And we call them consolidated because it's when all the local elections, such as village governments, library boards, school boards, etc., are consolidated together and held on the same day. So that's why we call them a consolidated election. A lot of people also use the term municipal. That has to do with city offices. Sometimes people just say local elections, but the formal term is consolidated elections. So that's why it's given that term. The consolidated primary there are primary races in the city of Champaign Township and the city of Urbana only. So these offices are what people will see throughout the city of Champaign and Urbana, city of Champaign Township specifically, and the municipality of Urbana will have these offices on their ballots. You can see there are specific wards where alderman primaries are happening. So if residents of Urbana live in any of those wards, you will see that office as well. And in a little bit, Michelle is going to tell you a little bit more about how you can see which ward and which area you live in, because we know that that information is not something that maybe everybody has on the top of their mind. after the consolidated primary, which you saw ends February 23rd, we'll be talking a lot about early voting and lots of ways to vote. Voting's already started, and the last day for the consolidated primary is February 23rd. And then early voting for the consolidated general begins on February 25th, soon after the primary. And the consolidated general is countywide. All registered voters in Champaign County will have something on their ballot. So early voting starts February 25th and runs through the last day, which is April 6th. You'll see these offices on your ballots. So what are these offices? There was a big list we were just looking at. That's a great question. What are these offices? At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, who has all of the nitty-gritty details about those offices. She's serving in the county clerk's office. She is the director of training there and has been involved with political issues here in Champaign County since 2013. So she's very knowledgeable about this topic, and she's going to be sharing some information with all of us.
Thank you, and thank you for getting us started as well. So just a couple of you have your cameras on, just nod like everyone can hear me, right? I am speaking. All right, cool, just checking. Okay, so what are these offices? So I found the easiest way is to think of it as like nesting dolls. So you've got the county government, and then do you want to pull up that next slide? And there we go. So you've got the county government, and then within a county government, you have a township government, and then usually within a township government, you have a municipal government. So there are three different types of governments, and they do overlap each other quite a bit, and they communicate with each other quite a bit on a lot of things. But when we talk about different offices, they usually fall within one of these three types of governments here. And municipal, I'm also using very broadly, could also mean like a village as well, not just simply like a city like Champaign or Urbana, but it could be like Village of Rantoul, Village of Mahomet, stuff like that. Champaign County itself has 30 townships, which is where you get your precinct name from. So, you know, if you know that you're in Champaign 5, that's because you are in the Champaign Township and you're in the 5th precinct of that township. So there's some logic to that naming scheme, and your precinct will always tell you what township you're in. So what do these various levels of government do? So the county government is overwhelmingly administrative. They're the documenter of almost all records for the county. So land deeds, vital records, birth certificates, death certificates, elections, so registering voters, holding the election, all of that kind of stuff, maintaining roads that are outside of home rule. And then the public health department also can fall under the county government. And I know we all appreciate our public health entity right now. So a county government is very broad administrative support to all of the entities that are within that county. So the county government collects all the taxes and then distributes it to all of the local entities. Again, holds all those elections for all the local entities, does all of that documentation and record keeping for all of the entities and how that impacts the county, and then transfers that information to the state as well. So a township is, it's a very intentionally drawn type of government. So it's often used to cover rural parts that are kind of off on their own, maybe areas between villages or connecting a couple of small villages and combining their resources. And they have a few very specific tasks. So they are responsible for maintaining the roads and the bridges within their township, and they get a budget and money to make sure they do that. They also have to have a township assessor. So that's someone who goes out and is assessing the value of the property in that township. because those assessments are what inform the property tax rates for everyone to be paying. And then they also provide general assistance through what's called General Assistance Fund. And every township has one. Some use them more generously than others. Some have higher taxing rates than others. So they can vary quite a bit from one township to another. But those are the three main things that a township does. And so when you have a township on your ballot, those offices are going to be township supervisor, township clerk, township assessor, and then township trustees. And those are pretty much the main ones that in terms of your townships you'll have to deal with. There's a couple exceptions that I'm going to get to in a second. But especially if you are in anything that's called a village, your township is most likely going to have all of those offices in it. So some of the townships are what's called coterminous with the municipality that they're in. So Champaign and Cunningham are both examples of this. So the city of Champaign Township has the same boundaries as the city of Champaign, and the city of Champaign City Council acts as the township board. And it's the same situation in Urbana. So the city of Urbana and the Cunningham Township are coterminous, and then the city of Urbana City Council acts as the Cunningham Township Town Board. So those instances, you would not have things like township trustee or township clerk on your ballot. You would only have township assessor and township supervisor, because the clerk's office or the city clerk's office and basically the city council fill those other positions for those townships because of that coterminous status. And then your third one mostly is your municipal governments, which again, I'm also including as villages. And those are the things that are parks and rec, police and fire, housing, your EMS, which is often in collaboration with the county EMS as well, transportation, public works. Those things fall under municipal governments. And I think, you know, I always think of it as like a home rule kind of thing. So, home rule, so they're controlling their own city. I'm not necessarily saying that home rule has to be passed, but within some kind of established municipality, they control what happens in that area. The county government is only impacting areas that are unincorporated and supporting those areas. The county government still collects taxes for all of municipal governments and all villages and disperses it to its entities, like its park districts, its libraries, all of its public health department, all of those things. But they do not in any way set any ordinances or restrictions or laws that are impacted within those city boundaries. So in Champaign-Urbana, which again are technically the only two municipalities in Champaign County, they both have the same structure with some slight differences. So they're both mayor-council structures. So they have a mayor who's elected independent from the council. So Urbana's mayor is on the ballot for this election, and Champaign's mayor was on the ballot for the last round. So they're elected independently from the city council members. They're paid independently. And in Urbana, the mayor does not vote on issues unless there is a tie among the city council members, and then they might vote on an issue. And the Urbana mayor also has veto power. So it's called a strong mayor form of government. So the Urbana mayor does a lot of the administrative budget type of work and can veto and can vote on ties. Whereas the city of Champaign mayor is a part-time position, and the city of Champaign has a full-time city manager who handles most of the day-to-day managing of the city. And the city of Champaign mayor votes with the city council. So anytime the city council is voting on an issue, the mayor of Champaign is voting with them on that issue. And I'm 99% sure there is no veto power available to that mayor. So again, the consolidated is a really large election in terms of the number of offices that are up, but it's always usually a small amount that are available per voter. But just to give you an idea, we have a couple slides that outline all the different entities within Champaign County. So as you can see, Champaign and Urbana are the only municipalities, and then the rest fall under villages. And so again, those villages are going to have like village president, village trustee. Some have a village clerk. Some do not have a village clerk who's elected. Some have a village clerk who is appointed. But president and trustee are pretty consistent across the board for those. So those will be on your ballot. If you live in one of these villages, that would be what is on your ballot for this area for this coming April election. So like I said, we have 30 townships in Champaign. These are the names of all those townships. And again, it's your precinct. It also names your precinct for you. So if you are in Mahomet, you've got one of 5 choices: Mahomet 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Rantoul has 5 or 6, but one's actually in Thomasboro. So it's not necessarily that you're named after the city that is covered by it, because again, those townships have different boundaries that are drawn in a different manner. They're not necessarily just specific villages or towns or things like that. They can be pretty large and encompass a larger area that has multiple towns, but only be named after one thing. And if you've lived here for a while, you'll probably notice some of these names, like Ogden. It's a pretty like an Ogden town. There's an Ogden township, there's an Ogden family. So again, these are old names that have been around since the beginning of the county and have continued to be used to name things over and over. These are just some other unincorporated areas. These do not have anything that's going to be on the ballot. And I even myself recognize like 2 or 3 of them. These are very small, just unincorporated, but still named areas in Champaign County. So these are things that the county government would be supporting. So when we talk about roads and bridges that the county government or the township governments are taking care of, it's for unincorporated areas such as these. That's who's providing services to these entities. Hey, Anne, I forgot. Oh, I got one more slide and then you're coming back, right? Sorry, I didn't take notes very well. These are our public school districts. We have quite a few, and public school districts, just in case someone doesn't know, don't care about county boundaries. So we have quite a few public school districts that cross into other counties, whether that's Piatt, Douglas, South. I think one might go into Coles County. But they are not at all bound by county borders, and they can easily cross. And so these offices have school board up. So it's not the entire school board. It's usually some form of half of the school board is up on your ballot. And regional office of education, we have a lot of superintendents. Those positions can be up as well. And I know the Champaign Forward office has, I think, 3 people running for this April. But so as you can see, there's like really important offices that are on your ballot for the Consolidated. Unfortunately, the Consolidated does not have the best voter turnout, but we can talk more about that in a minute. Okay, so I do want to talk for a minute about the Champaign County Clerk's website. I have been working with the entire staff for well over a year to improve the website and make it better and make it more useful and more accessible. And let me screen share actually And can I screen share so I can show the login? Or not? There it is. So this is the clerk's website here. This is the home page. And you can use the jump menu right here. So if you know exactly what you want to do, you want to register to vote, you want to request a ballot, you can jump to it from right here. You can scroll down a little and you've got elections right here, this whole section. So if you click on this, it's going to break out into a couple different categories. So this one is the voter portal, which we're going to spend quite a bit of time on in just a minute. Over here, all the different ways that you can vote. So your early voting, grace period voting, vote by mail, vote on election day, all of that information is here. If you have questions on how to register to vote or you need the link, you can pull that up from here. If you have any interest in working as an election judge, you can sign up here. And then down here, anything that has to do with actually being a candidate or being a poll watcher or just trying to be more engaged as a voter in the actual electoral process, you can find information down here. So when you use your voter portal, and I strongly encourage everyone to log in and use theirs, it has a lot of information in it. You just need your first name, your last name, and the last 4 digits of your social security number or your driver's license number, either or, don't put both in at the same time. And then once you have logged in, you're going to get a screen that looks like this. So I have a lot of information right here. So this is the address that I'm currently registered to vote at. I need to update it. I have moved. If I wanted to update it, I could click on this and I could update it online through the state portal. This right here is my precinct. So I'm in City of Champaign 38. So I could vote in the primary, which I do want to. These are all of the districts that I live in and could vote for. So I've got everything from the 13th congressional, I'm in the 52nd legislative. It tells me what county board district I'm in, what judicial circuits I'm in, what municipal district I'm in, all the way down to there's that regional board of education. Here's the school district that I can vote in and my public health that I can vote in. So if you have any questions about like what actually could you even vote for, the entire list of what your address is eligible to vote for is right here under your districts. If you want to know though who's currently in those positions, that's just right here under your elected officials. And you're going to get this, which has your actual who's currently in that office. And of course, this gets updated as elections happen. So if you wanted to know who your county board member is, you can go and click on county board and it's going to show you the 2 people that represent your district. And that goes all the way down to precinct. So if you wanted to know who your precinct committee person was for either party, you could find that out as well. School district, you can see all the members that you have the ability to vote for, stuff like that. So this is the actual people. These are all the districts. This section here in the middle, so I could request a vote by mail ballot. I could request a vote by mail ballot for the Consolidated Primary and the Consolidated General if I wanted to. You would just click on it, read, go through the steps. It's really not hard. You're basically just promising that you're not going to commit election fraud, which I know none of us are. You put in your email address, which is useful because then we can send you an update when your ballot has been sent. You can change the address that you want your ballot sent to. So if you are out of the state for the winter, you can have it sent to a different address. You would just unclick this and then put in the new address that you want to have it sent to. It doesn't impact your registration. And then right now you would need to select which elections you want. So if you're in the city of Champaign or the city of Urbana, you would have both options available to you. So you could select them both. And for the city of Champaign primary, you would also need to determine what party ballot you want as well. This isn't going to be the same for everyone because we don't have a primary, and we don't have a primary with both parties in the entire county. So this area will look different. And then you're just going to confirm it, and you'll get an email stating that we've received your request, and we'll get it out into the mail to you. Right now, we're mailing pretty much every single day, whichever requests have just come in. And then another very useful piece right here in the middle is your sample ballot. So if you want to see your sample ballot, if you click on it, oops, that's not what I wanted. Oh, yeah, it's going to try to log me in. Sorry, because I do actually log in to the voter program. But normally you can click on this and your ballot's going to download for you, and you'll be able to open it as a PDF, and it will look exactly like the ballot that you're going to have at the voting location. I'm sorry I can't download that for you, but it's going to get confused because I actually log into that program to do work. So here is your election day polling place right here. And this is a link to a Google map to see it on the map if you want to know where it's at. This is your early voting reminder of when you could start early voting if you wanted to. And then this is the link to the state of Illinois online voter registration portal. If you need to register or again, update your address, this link is the same as this link right here. And then if you wanted to sign up as an election judge, that's this link here, and you could sign up here. So that's the voter portal. Please give it a shot. I think it's pretty useful, especially if you want to know more about what districts you're in and who specifically represents you. And then the other piece that I really wanted to point out was over here, I'm on the right, I'm under election sections links, and I'm right here on Meet the Candidates. So if you click on this, you're going to get a very long list of all of the candidates that are on the ballot for the upcoming elections. So this top blue box here, this is for the primary. So that's why all you have is City of Champaign and City of Urbana, because those are the only two areas that have a primary. If you scroll down, you're going to get a whole lot more options. So now you have cities, which is Urbana and Champaign, the community colleges, fire protection, libraries, multi-township assessment districts. A multi-township assessment district is basically when there's multiple small towns, small villages, and they need an assessor. So instead of all of them individually having an assessor, they just get together and they become a multi-township assessment district that shares one assessor. So these just have one thing on the ballot because that's all they're electing is their assessor. Park boards, school districts, townships. So here you can see there's that road highway commissioner. So that's out of the township. That's the person that's responsible for maintaining those roads, clearing the snow, doing all of that stuff. Your township clerk, like we talked about, township supervisor, and then your township trustees as well. And that's just going to repeat over and over all the way down. The only difference is going to be like for Brown Township has their own township assessor. So that's another office that will be on that ballot for Brown. And then villages. So as we talked about earlier, you've got your village president. Sometimes you have a village clerk, and then your village trustees. And like, as we said with the school board, you're usually voting for half of the board at one time, except for in 2 years. And then we'll be voting for a lot of things. Referenda, we have 3 so far. Actually, I think hopefully 3, that's all we'll have. So we've got the one about the recorder's office consolidation, this really obscure one, which is about getting rid of a really old public water district in Dewey. And then the Village of Savoy is asking its constituents if they want to be a home rule community. So these are the 3 referenda that are on the ballot, on ballots coming up. Everyone will have this, everyone will have the first one. And then these two, of course, will be very geographically specific. We have a lot of write-in candidates. So you can always check out who write-in candidates are, what office they're running for. It's a couple of different village positions, and then something in Champaign and something in Rantoul. So that is all the different people and positions that are going to be on some ballot this April. Obviously, everyone gets slightly different ballots.
And I was able to pull up my sample ballot. Michelle, do you want me to share that briefly, just so people
Yeah,
can see
that'd be
what that looks
great.
like?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's mine. I'm in City of Champaign 36, and the only thing that will be on my ballot in this primary election is City of Champaign Township, Township Supervisor. But it's really great to be able to see exactly who's going to be on the ballot. Of course, if you request a vote by mail ballot, it's similar. It comes to your home and you get to look at it there. But it's really nice, and especially because what you're voting on is very specific to what you live, so it's or where you live. So it's very good to be able to use that as a place to start doing some research on candidates. Let's head back. We'll go to the back to our slideshow. And yeah, if anyone has specific questions, let us know. We've got that chat open. And next, Michelle's going to share some startling information about voter turnout.
So for the November general election, we had 96,185 people in Champaign County vote. And that's out of 127,848 registered voters. So the county itself had a 75% turnout rate, which is wonderful and amazing, especially in the middle of a pandemic, very uncertain times, a lot of people trying to adjust quickly to using vote by mail. So this is an excellent turnout. It's the highest the county has ever seen, and we really hope that it continues to be the trend for general elections. However, if you look at our consolidated elections, the last election with the highest turnout was in 2017, and it had 26,865 voters. And that is countywide as well. So that's out of, again, at that time, there were, that equaled to be basically at that time a 20% voter turnout. So we can go from 20% turnout in a consolidated, which is one of our higher turnouts for consolidated. We have some other consolidateds that are even lower, to a 75% turnout rate for a general. So it is so important that we get people to vote in a consolidated. These are our local offices, and they're being elected by a very tiny percentage of the voting population. And that's just not really how it's supposed to work. So we need more people at the polls. We need to make sure that these offices are elected by an actual representation of the community. And because they're consolidated and they don't have big races in them, they just don't get the media or the attention that the presidential and the federal races get. So people just don't know. We deal with this question all the time at the clerk's office. People don't know that there is an election in February and an election in April. They have no idea. They think the next election is in 2022. So it's so important that we make sure people understand that there are consolidated races and that it's the local offices. It's like the most important offices. And again, please check out your voting portal. It's very useful.
So Michelle has mentioned a few of these things, but I just want to reiterate all the many ways that we can vote. Voting by mail early and on election day. Um, Michelle showed how you can use that voter portal to really quickly request your ballot. It takes, I think, less than 2 minutes. It's safe, secure, and extremely convenient, especially in this pandemic. It's really great to not have to make another stop somewhere. I love using the vote by mail ballot because I can fill it out right where I'm at home, and I have my research material. I can look at the candidates and check out anything I need to while I'm filling out my ballot. So we really encourage as many people as possible to do that. And Michelle, can you also mention what the return rate was on vote by mail in this last election? I seem to remember it was incredibly high.
I think that our mail back return rate was in the low 80%, but when you factor in the people who just took their ballot to a polling location and voted in person instead, it's in the mid 90s.
Great, that's incredible. So another way that you can vote conveniently is to vote early. So we have voting sites already. Well, the Brookings Administrative Center is already open, has been since January 14th, and you can see the days and the hours there. And then 5 additional early voting sites will open at the locations listed on February 15th. So there'll be even more places that you can vote early. All of these early voting sites are also universal voting locations. So that's a location that any registered voter or eligible voter can register and vote all the way up to election day. Anyone in Champaign County can go to any of the sites that are listed here and either vote or register and vote. And of course, you can vote on election day. Now, we want to make a note that it's important to know that polling locations are different for the consolidated election. Because voter turnout is lower in consolidated elections, and we know that having fewer polling places doesn't diminish voter turnout. The clerk's office has consolidated polling places that allows for more thorough training of election judges, and it saves taxpayer money, and it just makes the election process more efficient. So it's especially important to check your voter portal to make sure that you know exactly which polling location you need to go to if you plan to vote on election day and you're not intending to go to a universal location. But of course, you can go to one of those universal locations, and polling places are open 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. We always encourage folks to stay in line. If you're in line by 7 p.m., you get to vote. And Illinois is great because it's never too late to register to vote in Illinois. Currently, our paper registration is closed, but you can register online up until February 8th. And then after that grace period, registration and voting begins. You can bring a photo ID and you can bring mail, and the clerk's office does accept digital mail. So something like an Amazon order, an electronic utility bill, UC students can show their housing assignment. All of those things are acceptable to show your address. So we want to make sure that folks know who has voting rights and who can vote. If you're 18 years or older, or as long as you're 17 at the on the date of the primary, and you will be 18 for the general election, you can still vote as a 17-year-old as well. And those folks who have had a felony conviction have full voting rights in Illinois. We also want to encourage folks here to engage in local government. Being aware of offices that are on the ballot and voting is really important, but we also encourage people to participate with the Champaign County Democrats. We have monthly meetings, we have committees that are actively working throughout Champaign County. You can also become a precinct committee person. In all of those townships that Michelle was talking about were divided up into precincts. Michelle is City of Champaign 38. I'm City of Champaign 36. I'm the precinct committee person for my precinct, which means I'm very active in talking to the people in my neighborhood and encouraging them to vote. People are very grateful to have the information about where and when to vote and who's on the ballot. So I am greeted with appreciation when I knock on doors, when that's able to happen. So we can always use precinct committee people and other volunteers. You can also pick boards and commissions to follow, or even maybe try to be a part of. Members of our community who are participating in making decisions to help our community are, they're people who are offering to share their time and their expertise and their opinions and ideas, and we need everybody to participate in that. You can also volunteer for local campaigns. We have a lot of great candidates who are stepping up to run for the first ever, and they can use a lot of help and support. So we encourage folks to volunteer for campaigns as well. So we have a consolidated election challenge that we want to leave you with. We want you to make sure that you can find 5 people that you know who are going to vote in these upcoming consolidated elections. We want you to encourage people to really know how important it is. Check out the voter portal. Ask to vote by mail if that's something that they'd like to do, and get out and vote. And it's especially important if you can find folks who maybe have voted in general elections but never in consolidated elections. So see if you can you spread the word, let people know how important these elections are. And I'm checking to see if we have any. Do we have any questions? Oh, we got a question. And Michelle answered it already. Any other questions you can drop in the chat? I have a question, Michelle. You shared a great list of the people who are running. What do you think is the best way for people to find out about those candidates? How can they learn more once they know their name and what office they're interested in? How can they learn more?
Well, I would say you could reach out to them. So if you go back to that Meet the Candidate page. So I'm on the Meet the Candidate page. This here, candidate contact information. So if the candidate provided any campaign contact information to us, it is in this spreadsheet here. So you can click on this and download it, and you can, some you can call, some you can email, some just provided an address. Again, it's only if they provided it, do we provide it to the public here? So I would start with that. Unfortunately, it can be hard to research the local candidates. They don't have the support and infrastructure, so they might not have a website. They might not have somebody answering the phone all the time. So honestly, I think Facebook is usually a pretty good place to find people. But if you want to know something about a local candidate, I would reach out to them directly. You're probably gonna have some pretty specific questions about local policy that you want to hear about from them, and you might as well just have a conversation with them. And if there's a candidate who doesn't want to talk to voters, then I think that's kind of your first that's your first indicator of how maybe you should vote. So all of the candidates that I usually work with are happy to talk to a voter, especially a voter who's actually trying to become more informed and know who they're voting for. So use the contact information sheet. If we don't have them, look for them on Facebook. You can contact the county parties. They might be able to put you in contact with them. So whichever party the person belongs to, you could try that route as well. Again, and that's if you just can't find an obvious website for them.
All right, thanks, Michelle. And Roseanne tried that link, and I also, just got about this.
Yeah, I probably messed up attaching the link, so I'll fix that tonight. Yeah, what Esther said, if they're not going to answer you to answer your
Yeah,
questions.
I think internet connection is maxed out by our Zoom call. Thanks for sharing information in the chat. See, my connection was bad. I actually got booted off for a moment. Well, if there aren't any further questions, I will Michelle Jett for sharing her time and expertise tonight. I want to say thank you to everyone up to learn a little bit more about government offices and who will be on the ballot and how to find out who will be on your ballot specifically. And please visit champaigncountydems.com. Find us on Facebook. We've got a lot of information up about candidates as well. And we're really happy to have you all here and involved in the democratic process. And thanks, Michelle, for dropping in that link. We are doing some lit drops coming up in these upcoming weekends before the primary election, just to encourage people to come out and vote. It is not candidate specific. It's really just letting people know that there is a primary consolidated election happening and we need people to get involved and vote. And so it'll share some of the information that you saw tonight about the ways to vote. So if you're really wanting to encourage your neighbors and community members to show up, that would be a great way to let them know. Just lit drops, not canvassing. We're just providing information all over Champaign and Urbana. Thanks, everybody.